Her roles ranged from professional seamstress to garment construction educator at various levels, as well as external verifier with the National Training Agency for CVQ in schools. Since November last year, Miss Mohammed hosted a free sewing class for interested persons in Mount St. George. And that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to her community volunteerism efforts.
I grew up with this. Ever since I know myself, I did voluntary work for the YMCA, for the Salvation Army, adult classes, in the library in Roxborough, teaching the students in August, little sewing aids and all that. So I've been doing this all the time. It feels good to give back. I had 15 high-energy women. They were soaking up everything I taught them like a sponge. And in class, they would, even if I go with the basic, they would say, oh gosh, miss, how you cut this and how you cut that and how to do this. And they always do the questions. And I'm thinking in my mind, it's just a basic course. You didn't reach that level yet, so kind of cool it. But then before you know it, they go home and they do research until they go on YouTube and they come back with the finished product. So I don't give myself that credit. They were so interested. They were soaking up everything like a sponge. And that made me feel motivated as a tutor. This is the beginning of things now. Once I have good health, I will spread this to other villages. Because I realize that with the economy as it is, we need to, women especially, even housewives, they need to empower themselves with a skill. If they're not doing it commercially, at least they could do it for their families and it would be a big thing, a big saving. As I said, I'm semi-retired because I'm still doing school uniforms. So I would like to share my knowledge because I think the graveyard is one of the richest places in earth because people die with all their knowledge and skills. A lot of people without sharing it. And I get a lot of joy and fulfillment when I share my knowledge. At this time, because the people who taught me at John Day and all, they spend their time to teach me, and I should pay it forward.
I'm Amadara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
We'll take a short break right now, but much more Let's Talk when we return. Stay close. Did you know that Tobago's first FM frequency radio station was established 25 years ago? That's right. Tambourine Radio 92.7 FM was established on June 8, 1998, and since then has been pioneering the way as Awi Radio. Here's more.
25 years, Silver Jubilee, congratulations.
Tobago family, extended program this morning. No problem, no problem. We jamming, we pumping all day, we celebrating.
So it's really a dream come true, and I must thank the manager and of course the brilliant ideas behind this station for giving us the opportunity, the voice, the platform to express ourselves and to showcase our talent. And I must say kudos to George and his wife Carolita and to the entire management and staff. You know, it's been a pleasure working with them for the past 25 years. I do what I love. I enjoy doing it every single day, coming out, putting my feelings behind and try to make others feel happy.
I gotta say thanks to everyone who've been listening and keep on listening, and we're gonna try to do our great job, you know. We'll see how it is with it.
25 years is a long time, and we don't want to be that institution that it is, you know. That conversation between George and Carol Leacup, the management of Radio Tambourine is one that gave Tobagonian the opportunity to grow. And every step of the way, every move that I make in the station, I was supported by the management and staff of Radio Tambourine. I'm grateful for that. And one of the things that, outstanding in Radio Tambourine is that togetherness. The management, the approach of the management, some people not seem to understand it. But when your whole life is based on something that you built from ground, you need to protect it.
I feel very good, and being a part of it, it's phenomenal. 25 years, and I have been in the engine room. Mr. Leacock has been the face. That's the reason why. I'm the voice.
That's a bad choice in terms of the face part of it.
They gave me the hardest job to do, which is actually to keep Tambourine afloat. So, by the end of the day, with his support, we've been able to do it.
Thanks for the support over the 25 years, and we're still here. We're still getting up earlier in the morning that we like to get up to come and do it, and so that must mean we're enjoying it.
In this next story, we'll tell you how this lone Tobagonian prepared for his trip to Germany to participate in the International Special Olympics 2023.
To go out and do his best were the words that both DeAndre's mother Vanessa and coach Stefan about the Special Olympians' trip to compete. While in Germany, he will be taking part in the mini javelin and long jump events. And this is how he prepared for the task ahead.
The training has been for approximately 3 months, 2 days per week. The training has been progressing well. At first, he may have a little hiccups in terms of learning these basic skill sets of javelin, but then eventually he got through to them, and now he's doing pretty well, and he's ready for the games to the best of my ability, I believe so.
All I ask is that he does his very best. If he gets a goal out of his very best, I'm very happy with that.
Excited to be competing, a confident DeAndre wants to say thank you to a few people.
I thank my family, my friends, myself, and my coaches, everybody that's part with me. Thank you.
I'm Crystal George for Let's Talk Tobago.
The Commonwealth Youth Games is just weeks away, and Ryle McCool tells us all we need to know to get involved. Here's more.
So we just saw the completion of a wonderful Rainbow Cup triathlon. It's returned to Tobago, and the athletes they gave their all. So we're here at the Commonwealth booth because the triathlon is one of the major events taking place in Tobago in August for the Commonwealth Youth Games Tobago 2023.
Tobago 2023, less than 2 months, 5 weeks to go. It's all happening, and today we are very glad to be here to showcase the booth. Everybody learning about the Commonwealth as well as Tobago 2023 Youth Games, ages 14 to 18. And while we are here at Turtle Beach, we can see just beyond Black Rock as well, where volleyball is going to take place, as well as we know that the venue for triathlon will be Buku.
This morning we are here to promote Destination Tobago because, as you know, some of the Commonwealth Games will be taking place in Tobago. So we are partnered with the Commonwealth team, and we are just here promoting Tobago and reminding them that Tobago is part of sports tourism.
Sensitizing young people that sport is an option, and to make more inspire and empower them to also volunteer. Volunteering is still open, so please go to Tobago 2023 on the website, fill out the form, come and volunteer, learn something about, meet new people, and be part of this games, because this games is 71 countries from all over the world. We have lots of people to engage with, lots of things to learn, and we're just waiting for you to come be a sport ambassador as part of the whole game.
It's all about Tobago 2023, and if you see how people have been enjoying today's triathlon, you could only look forward to greater, bigger and better things in August when we have the Commonwealth Youth Games taking place. So remember, if you haven't volunteered as yet, you still have some time. So go on the Facebook page, go on the website, as the president of the TTOC said, and register, become a volunteer, right? It's all about the Commonwealth Youth Games. You don't want to miss this one.
And that's a wrap. We've come to the end of yet another episode of Let's Talk Tobago. For more of our content, you can follow us on our social media platforms. You can also visit our website at www.tha.gov.tt. I'm Patricia Nicholson-Richards, and on behalf of all of us at the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly, thank you so much for viewing, and see you soon.
You're watching Let's Talk Tobago.
Can't make them tell me what to say. Can't make them tell me how to pray. I can't be the only one who's excited to call your name. I can't be the only one who's a Christian and unashamed. I know I'm not the only one not addicted to likes and fame. Oh, but if that were the case, you will stay first. It's impossible to feel this way and keep it on the inside. All the things you did for me that I couldn't do for me, that is why I wear this smile. And who knows, and very few do. I've been at my lowest until you came through. The enemy had plans for me, but so do you, so do you. Hallelujah. When somebody saves your soul and makes you whole, you gotta scream and shout. My worship's at another place. If you don't understand, you're gonna put me out. But you might just have a hard time, cause under me alone, Yeshua's been good too. Worshippers around the world, make the praise come true. Cause I can't be the only one who's excited to call your name. I can't be the only one who's a Christian and unashamed. I know I'm not the only one not interested in likes and fame. Oh, but if that were the case, you will take first place. Jesus, can't quench my passion for the Lord. Jesus, you're the reason for the blessings that I see. And even when times get hard, I'm okay. I feel your favor surrounding me. When everything fails and people need an answer, I hope I'll be there, my King, to lift you up like a banner. But I can't be the only one who's excited to call your name. Oh, I can't be the only one who's a Christian and unashamed. Yeah. I know I'm not the only one not addicted to likes and fame. Oh, but if that were the case, you will stay first. Jesus, the earth may shake and winds may blow, but you'll remain the same. Strongest love I've ever known, and power in your name. The weak find refuge in your arms, so every chance I get I'll write a song to tell of what you've done. But I can't be the only one who's excited to call your name, Jesus. I can't be the only one who's a Christian and unashamed. I know I'm not the only one not interested in life and fame. Oh, but if that were the case, you will stay first. Jesus, I can't be the only one who's excited. Shout down the mountain tops, and I can't be the only one. I know I could never be alone. I know I'm not the only one not addicted to likes and fame. Oh, but if that were the case, you will stay first. Break it all. You will take first place, oh.
Action, man. I am the messenger, the messenger. I can't think of a time or a day or a minute that I don't go down on my knees and put Jesus in it. Sinful nature and me feeling so weak, emotionally. Feels like I'm sinking, never to rise no more. Father, yesterday, today, forever. You never change, you never change, you never rearrange. Omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. Without you in my life, what I go do, what I go do, Lord, I go dead if I don't have you. Here comes Jesus to the rescue. Father, you never ever fail me yet. Lord, you never ever fail me yet. When I fall down to the ground, your love keep me safe and sound. You never ever fail me yet. 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 You never Personally, I give you the praises continually. Oh yeah, there's no other like you that could protect me from my little voodoo arms. I'll go astray. You leave the 99 for me, and it's overwhelming. Yesterday, today, forever. You never change, you never change, you never rearrange. Omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. Without you in my life, what I go do, what I go do, that I go dead if I don't have you. Here comes Jesus to the rescue. Father, you never ever fail me yet. You never, Lord, you never ever fail me yet. When I fall down to the ground, your love keep me safe and sound. You never ever fail me yet. You never, Father, you never ever fail me yet. Lord, you never ever fail me yet. When I fall down to the ground, your love keep me safe and sound. You never ever fail me yet. 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 You never ever
Good morning, good morning, put a smile on your
Our national borders, our first step to security, but a possible access point for guns, drugs, crime. If it does not look right, do the right thing. Call Crime Stoppers anonymously. 800-8477. Report possible border crime.
when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, and welcome to Tobago Updates, the morning show. It's a beautiful day. This is the day that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. We have beautiful weather outside today, and we have a lovely show in studio for you today. I am Adana Kumbi.
I'm Marcus Daniel. I was waiting for the show to meet me.
This is my co-host, Marcus Daniel. And as I said, we have a beautiful show on for you today. Yesterday was a public holiday, and I know a lot of people either took some time out to rest, spend time with family, went to the beach, and there were a lot of things happening on the island. So I hope you guys were well rested and you're ready for the world of work today.
World of work today. That's for those who can actually make it to work. You know, scrolling through Facebook yesterday, I saw some persons complaining about not getting to get to Tobago and get to Trinidad from Tobago because of that
stranded on either island.
Problem with Cal and that domestic air bridge. Always troubling when you have a long weekend, or even on a weekend, people can't get to Tobago and they can't get from Tobago to Trinidad. So I saw a lot of persons complaining yesterday that they actually closed off standby in Trinidad at 4:30. So they couldn't get a flight to come home, and I've been there. I mean, I'm not sure if you have slept on the airport before. I slept twice at the airport, and it's not a good feeling because it's extremely cool at the airport.
Yes, it is.
And sometimes these things are unplanned, Adana. You don't. Sometimes you just have to go to Trinidad. Last minute decision, and because sometimes you go online to get a ticket, and tickets are booked up 2 weeks down the road, and you have to go the standby routes. And most times, you put your name down, and then they will tell you that they're not selling any more tickets. What are you to do? Probably go outside and look for a drink or somebody to stay by, But it's a troubling situation, because it's something that can cripple what we call domestic tourism.
Of course.
And I'm not sure you like traveling on the boat.
Not at all. And the thing about it is not anything new.
Yeah, it's not,
every long weekend, every holidays, an ongoing issue for
course,
years and years and years.
Exactly, and we're heading into July, August.
Yes, definitely. So guys, we're happy that you're here with us today on the morning show on Tobago Updates. And before we proceed, we're going to ask you to do what? Share the live, share the live, share the live. But right now we go to the news in 90 seconds with Candice Jackson.
Thank you, Adana and Marcus. I am Candice Jackson, and here is your news in 90 seconds for Tuesday, 20th June, 2023, brought to you by Coconut's Cafe, located on the ground floor of the Port Mall. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley accused Chief Secretary Fali Augustine of being untruthful about many issues involving the THA and central government. Addressing a PNM public meeting in Calder Hall, Rowley revealed that the candidate he approved to replace the retired chief administrator was under investigation since November 2022. He explained that the notice of the investigation was issued by the former chief administrator. Meanwhile, Rowley accused Augustine of requesting a different public servant to fill the chief administrator position. As a result, Dr. Rowley believes the suspension of his candidate was to allow Augustine's candidate to fill the position. Moving on, Assemblyman Watson Duke held a march on Labor Day fighting against unemployment within the Tobago House of Assembly. The march commenced at Kings Bay and ended at the Roxborough Jetty. In his feature address, he posited that Chief Secretary Fali Augustine has abandoned the mandate to put Tobagonians first. He noted that workers belonging to agriculture, CPEP, and URP gangs have salary concerns that need to be addressed by the THA urgently. Assemblyman Duke claimed that the current administration is mortgaging the children's future and urged Tobagonians to take a stand. And finally, about 60 people gathered in Scarborough to demand the resignation of Chief Secretary Fali Augustine and the entire Executive Council yesterday. The march was led by the concerned citizens of Tobago and included several prominent members of the Tobago Council of the PNM. Political leader Ansel Dennis said it is unprecedented for the THA administration to be under police investigation. He called on them to step down while investigations are ongoing. Meanwhile, Minority Leader Kelvin Morris said Augustine's admission about the infamous audio tape shows his guilt in corruption. And that was in News in 90 Seconds. It is and that brought to you by Coconut's Cafe.
Coconut's Cafe, the buffet restaurant that specializes in all your tasty local dishes. For breakfast and for lunch. Breakfast includes coconut bake and sada roti, served with chokers, buljoil, and sausages in tomato sauce. Not forgetting beef and cheese pies, shepherd's pie, macaroni pie, and rice in various styles. Meat served in a variety of flavors, garden salads, and pasta salads. All this accompanied by fruit juices, coconut water, your choice of a great combination to appease your taste buds. So call us today to order, as we are here to accommodate your busy schedules or if you are having a cooking day off.
Thank you, Candace. That was your News in 90 Seconds. Thank you so much. And we are going into our birthday shout-out segments, and this is sponsored by KFC.
This is your birthday shout-outs on Tobago Updates, sponsored by KFC.
Let's see who is celebrating her birthday today. Oh, we have Latoya Kato. She is celebrating her birthday today. Happy birthday, Latoya, from all of us here at Tobago Updates.
Yeah, big up Latoya. And I'm told that today is also Clarence Jacob, former assemblyman in the Tobago House of Assembly. He's celebrating his birthday. Shout out Clarence Jacob. Hope you have yourself a wonderful day. Of course, from all of us here on Tobago Updates.
Yes, yes. Happy birthday to all the celebrants. And our birthday shout-out was brought to you by KFC.
Birthday shout-outs on Tobago Updates, sponsored by KFC.
From the experts that created the Zinger sandwich comes the KFC Crispy Barbecue Zinger.
The only one I see is you.
Cheddar cheese, crispy onions, the most delicious Kentucky Fried Chicken, and barbecue sauce. Get ready for a whole new level of flavor.
Welcome back, viewers. Thank you for staying with us here at Tobago Updates on the morning show. Remember, you are asked to share the live, share the live, share the live. Remember, we are on Amplia 102, and we have our first newscast this evening at 6:30 p.m. So we're asking you to tune in to our news segment. Remember that 6:30 p.m. is our first newscast on Amplia 102 with Pamela Nicholson and
Patricia Nicholson,
sorry. Got my names crossed there. But it's an exciting time in Tobago.
Patricia and Kristen.
Right, and Kristen Salandi, correct. Yeah. So join us. So what's on the show today, Marcus? We have an interesting lineup today. We're going to be talking about some issues. We're going to be getting some facts, and we're going to be revealing stuff to you guys. We have our first interview is Assemblyman Trevor James. He is the Secretary of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the Wassa pipeline project that, of course, has a little bit of ongoing issues at the moment. You might not be aware, but we're going to bring the issues to you today. We're going to share some light on it and answer a few questions that need to be answered.
Yeah, and of course, then we're going to get innovative with Joseph Frederick. He's the Director of Innovation Development, NERDS International. And we're going to be talking about the Young Innovators Java Camp. That should take place in the July-August vacation period. So looking forward to chatting with Joseph there.
Right. And we're rounding up our interviews with representatives from the DSFN Family Workshop, and that's Down Syndrome Family Network. They're having a workshop, and we'll be speaking with Lisa Ghani and Dr. Amy Paul Ward as representatives of that particular group. Right. So we have an interesting show for you guys today. So we're asking you to stick around. And we are going to head out into Tobago in Focus. But remember to stay with us and share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be back.
Mediation is used as an alternative to litigation through the use of an impartial moderator and communication and negotiation techniques. The Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection established its mediation unit in 2009 and has steadily expanded. The unit, equipped with 2 certified mediators, has since settled several matters, including landlord and tenant issues, merchant-customer disputes, property and land, parenting, and even issues regarding the running of traditional susus. Assistant Coordinator at the Mediation Unit, Carol Spencer Edwards, further explains.
We deal with family and relationship disputes, neighborhood conflicts, community disputes, juvenile conflicts. So the range of issues are there, and as I said, we try to offer persons that option as against going to the court.
Ms. Spencer Edwards revealed a high success rate between 70 and 75%, noting that a large part of the unit's success lies with the process, as persons are allowed to speak freely in a safe and comfortable environment.
Quite often the issues that they deal with or that they're dealing with is not out of the ballpark. It's just that maybe sometimes not able to sit and express themselves. And sometimes you need somebody there to say, here's what, let's start with, or hold up, give her a minute, or hold up, give him a minute, you know.
The recent addition of a therapeutic counseling unit, manned by 8 counselors, has further expanded services, including a crisis hotline, parenting workshop, grief counseling, life skill coaching, marriage counseling, and learning enrichment programs. Services can be accessed through its walk-in services or by referral.
Welcome back to Tobago Updates. This is the Good Morning Show, and as I said, we are talking to you about some issues and events happening in and around Tobago, and we are heading into our first interview this morning, as I said, with Assemblyman Trevor James, and we are speaking to him this morning about the pipe laying project that is ongoing and taking place by WASA, right? And we know that there are some issues that arose. The project, of course, is supposed to increase or sustain water supply in the southwest part of Tobago, and we realize that an issue has taken place, and we want to get some insight, we want to get some background information, and we want to be up to speed to ensure we have the facts and we know what is taking place. Good morning, Mr. James. Welcome to our program. We are happy to have you and to speak on these issues this morning.
Good morning, Adana. I don't remember your last name, but thanks for having me.
Right.
Combi, that's correct. Sorry.
Right, that's correct.
Yeah.
Right, so before we get into the actual interview, just give us a little background, like a 30 seconds or 1 minute background on this project. What are the objectives and the expectations of this project?
Well, we did not receive a project brief from the WASA. The WASA came to us in February seeking approval for a route for the pipeline. We wrote to them, giving them the approval they were seeking. And we have expected that the relationship with WASA would be a cordial one. We took no action whatsoever to delay the project or to stall the project, despite our concerns about the route. And we've had meetings with WASA, but, you know, we look on in Tobago and we see the intent to create bacchanal in this space, and we have to respond. There's all this negativity about everything that we do, but we are clear, certainly on this issue, that we have facilitated, we have bent over backwards actually, to facilitate this project. We have had WASA go through our office at Lambeau without repairing it in a timely manner. We've asked WASA for their schedule of works so we could know which sector of the pipeline route they're working on when, so we could plan our oversight that will be necessary, and WASA has not been able to deliver those to us, and we are concerned. The specific issue that's made the news because of the statement of the minister is that we've had an injunction on the site. WASA was planning at the time to execute works on the site where we had an active project on the site that was stopped. We met with WASA on Friday and asked WASA to hold their hands for a few days. We wrote them officially to say, listen, there are other areas of the project pipeline that work can be completed on while we wait for the meeting of the court on Wednesday, because we believe it is critical that the contractor we have engaged and our staff be present on the site when WASA is laying pipes on a live project that we have. The WASA decided that they will not wait on us, and they went ahead. They breached the security barrier that the contractor put up and started executing the work in our absence, and that's where we are at.
Right. So I understand that that's where we are. But before we get there, the expectation or the agreement between you and WASA is that you would work in conjunction for this project. Is that correct? That you would provide
Absolutely.
what oversight? You would provide what?
We've facilitated WASA Tobago. We've met with Mr. Williams several times in trying to ensure that we are working together. We've given them the approval they sought. We've had one variation to our approval that we wrote to them since February to say that the route that they should take for the third phase should be changed so that the line could be aligned on the new road that we had intended to build at the time. And as all of the people can see, WASA has still decided to go along the Milford Road down to the Old Friendship Estate Road. It's an issue we wrote to them about, and we'll continue to attempt to work together for the development of Tobago. We've taken no decision to stop the pipeline works. Of course, we have concerns. We believe that almost every project that is designed from Trinidad is designed to limit our ability to develop in the future. The hospital, same 100 beds after 100 years. This pipeline project will prevent the duality of the Croton Highway, or will certainly challenge it in the future. And it's a concern we've had. Several areas of the pipeline are above the elevation of the current road. And but we still went ahead and gave the approval, because in the short term, the people of Crown Point, Kena, and Bon Accord will benefit from the pipeline. And so, despite those concerns, we went ahead and gave the approval. All we have been trying to do is to ensure that the WASA work with us, that they provide the design drawings, they provide the methodology for the road crossings to ensure that the restoration of the roads and the verges are to our acceptance. We've still yet to receive those designs that we requested. This Tobago will know that this same contractor executed a pipeline work in the development in Signal Hill, and the repair and the restoration of that work has left a lot to be so that we are concerned, and we feel that as the supervising authority for infrastructure works in Tobago, that it is our right to be able to provide some oversight on these projects, and we are still hopeful that the WASA Tobago and WASA head office in Trinidad would come and sit with us and make sure we are working together. We've taken no action whatsoever, despite the statements. We've taken no action whatsoever to prevent or to delay these works.
Right. So you've mentioned a lot of things there. You've said a whole lot of things there. But what I want to get, before we go to a break, what I want to get is, what is the actual route? Because you're saying that they have infringed on the agreement for the route that they ought to take to lay these pipes. They've gone off course. Is that what you're saying? They're not putting the pipes, they're not laying the pipes to where you agreed for it to be laid?
Absolutely. I sent that information to your studio, to your producer. And even despite that fact, we have not attempted to stop the works. We gave approval for, if you can put the master plan on the screen, we gave approval for the third phase of the pipeline to be run along the new road we are going to build. And if you see there, we gave approval for the third phase to be run between lots 14 and lot 9. WASA, in their own wisdom, I guess, decided that despite our approval as was required by the ECEC that they had. Despite that approval, they've decided to run the pipeline along the Milford Road, which will be smack in the area where we're going to put a roundabout and a crossing. And we met with them on Friday to try to say, well, listen, this is what we gave approval for. And we expected some kind of cessation on their part so that we can come together to determine what's the best way forward. And again, they've decided to escalate it to this madness from the minister. We don't want to get into a place where we are going tit for tat and toe for toe with ministers from Trinidad. The reality is that the responsibility of the THA is to implement government policy in Tobago under the 5th schedule items. WASA's actions are part of the 5th schedule items, and it is therefore the responsibility of the THA. And we've backed away. We haven't made this into an issue at all. We've been trying our best to facilitate this project as best as we can. And we find it very strange that the WASA and the minister would have put these half-truths in the public space.
Right. You've said something that is very important, and I want to piggyback on that. The projects that are ongoing in Tobago is for the betterment of the people of Tobago and must be governed by somebody, right? So we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we come back from the break. But I don't want, for me as a citizen of Tobago, I know for a fact that when projects are ongoing, I know it's for the enhancement of the island, and I don't want this to turn into something that it doesn't have to be. So we're going to hear more about that when we come back from the break. We have to go for a short break, and we'll be right back. Remember, viewers, to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be back.
This is how it's gonna go. They better look up and look, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up and look. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show. Live more.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning. Good morning.
Welcome back, viewers, to Tobago Updates. This is your morning show, and we are continuing our interview with Assemblyman Trevor James as we speak about the pipeline project that is taking place in the southwestern part of Tobago. And of course, some issues arose, and we're going to speak more on them. The main issue being that it appears that WASA has gone contrary to the agreement to what was made before this whole project began. Mr. James has cited that WASA, they practically just taken a separate route, right? Now, before we continue, they're saying, we have a letter here, right, that was sent to WASA. In the last part of the letter, we're asking that the matter, let me see if I could pull this up properly, eh? Right, there we are on the screen. It says, please note that for Route 3, the section from Friendship Road to Storby Local Road, this is what we were talking about, Mr. James, earlier, right?
That's correct.
Section from Friendship Road to Storby Local Road shall be laid along the proposed road reserve between lots 9 and lots 14, forming part of the Friendship Estates master plan, right? And you're saying that this is what was infringed upon, right? And the letter further goes on to say, for further guidance on Route 3, please contact the Director of Land Management Department of the Office of the Chief Secretary. We want to talk about this because obviously you're saying that there's a breach in this agreement. The agreement also states that consultation should be made with the Office of the Chief Secretary, the Land Management Department. Were these discussions had? Were these agreements met? Was there a conversation further to this letter agreeing to say, well, yes, we agree with this letter. This is what we're going to do. We're going to have the conversation and we're going to stick to what we agreed to.
Well, Adana, you phrased it differently than I would. It is not an agreement. The WASA, as required by the statutory regulations, must get approval from the Division of Infrastructure. That approval was sought, and that's the approval we gave. So, in essence, we told them, listen, we're going to approve your route with this variation, and that variation was that that last phase of the project be run along the new road, which is from Cove to Storby Local Road. The WASA, we've had discussions, we went to the site a couple of times, looked at the route with the WASA, decided on the utility corridor that we were going to have along the pylons that are there. Because as you know, wherever WASA runs that line, there will have to be a buffer both sides of the line to protect the line. So that's the approval we gave. Now, WASA decided, typical central government action, that we are the big bosses and we can come to Tobago and do what they want. And so they did. We don't control the police. We can't send the police for them. There's no authority that we can appeal to but the public. And we've written to them and we've tried our best not to get an injunction as well, because we could have. But in attempting to allow the project to flow, and they're moving quite quickly, which we appreciate, allow the project to flow, we've been meeting with WASA, and WASA has not been submitting the documentation that we've requested. Now, there's an issue that arose, I think, that Minister Gonzalez spoke to, which I need to just highlight. The WASA went into the site, I think, on Saturday morning, breached the contractor's hoarding, entered the site. There was nobody from the THA, nobody from the contractor on the site, as required by the injunction. The WASA, therefore, is operating on our site without any attendance from us. And the WASA can do whatever they want, apparently, without the THA's involvement. Now, the contractor called the station at Shervan, the police station, to report that the actions that were taking place on the site were not his men, because he anticipated that the EMA would probably become aware that works were being done on the site and would think that it was his workers, and maybe cause some other bacchanal again. So he called the station, as far as I'm told, to make this report, and the police went down there to verify that it was in fact WASA workers down there and not the contractor or THA workers. And somehow that turns into the THA attempting to stop the work. We can't get more crazy than these people. Always attempted to create bacchanal when there is no bacchanal in the space.
Mr. James, are the works ongoing right now at phase 3, or have the works ceased for a while? Are they ongoing now? What is the situation now? You're saying that WASA, whoever breached the caution tapes and they went in on the site and they're doing whatever it is they're doing. What is the situation, or what is the status of the project as we sit here this morning?
Well, I haven't gone to the site. The reports I've gotten suggest that WASA is on the site, laying their lines wherever they see fit, without any oversight from our staff or the contractor staff. And you may not know, Tobago will want to know that is going to cause a problem, because the design for that road WASA does not have, and it's quite possible that pipeline may have to be relocated once the contractor restarts the work. And we were trying to avoid all that. Even at the corner where Shervan is, we plan a roundabout and a road going into the estate from that location. The pipeline will be in the way again. And we've alerted WASA to that fact. And I think in a willful attempt to create confusion in Tobago, they've decided that, listen, that's where they will go. But we'd see how it all works out, because we simply cannot in Tobago continue to be disrespected and treated with this scant disregard by public officials from Trinidad. And you know, this is something that needs clarification. Like I said before, the THA Act speaks specifically to the authority of the THA to implement policy under the 5th schedule for 5th schedule items in Tobago. Water and WASA fall squarely in that area, and we expected that we work together. The WASA's org chart and structure has not yet divested WASA Tobago to the THA, and we expected that we would work together. It seems clear that the WASA is intent on doing whatever it feels, because maybe the minister and the WASA staff are the big bad wolves and can do whatever they want.
So you're saying that WASA is doing what WASA wants to do. You're saying that what is set up in policy essentially is in breach.
Absolutely. We feel, and the law says that the THA Act says that the THA will be responsible for items under the 5th schedule to implement the policy of the government of Trinidad and Tobago Tobago.
What are the actions that are going to be taken, have to be taken right now? Because if WASA is ongoing with the project and you're saying it's going to compromise future projects, the roundabout or whatever it is THA has to do in that area, what we don't want to be double working, we don't want to be wasting time, we don't want to be wasting resources. What actions are going to be taken to ensure that this project continues smoothly and in the way it is supposed to go for the betterment of the people of Tobago and to reach the project objectives, which is to supply a sustainable supply of water to the Southwest Tobago? What is going to happen?
Ms. Kambi, we have bent backwards. We've written to WASA. I think that letter was put in the public space in our press release from the division, I think on Saturday. We're clear that we've requested that WASA hold their hand for 3 or 4 days until we can have the injunction matter heard in the court and we can know how we are going. And the WASA has decided that they will not. We've still, not taken the action of course, taking an injunction against WASA to stop the works. And we still expect that we will have cordial meetings with WASA to determine the best way to resolve this matter before it becomes a major conflict. And we hope that we will meet with WASA again early today or tomorrow to see how we can resolve the matter. And at the end of the day, we want to work together for the development of Tobago. I've instructed my staff to take no action to stop the project. The chief has instructed that we take no action to stop the project as well. And we are still hopeful that despite the little terse words from the minister and I guess from our press release, that a solution could be had in the shortest order, and that WASA will follow the guidelines of the Division of Infrastructure in our approval to them. We are still hopeful that that can be done, and we will see how today and tomorrow go.
Thank you, Mr. James, for bringing us up to speed with that project. And we do hope that you are able to meet with WASA today so that we could get the matter resolved and continue with the project. Thank you very much. Viewers, that was Assemblyman Trevor James giving us some insight on the issue as it relates to the pipeline project in Tobago, on the southwestern part of Tobago. Up next, coming up next after the break, that is, we have, of course, Mr. Joseph Frederick, and he's talking about Young Innovators Camp. He is here in studio with us this morning and he's ready for his interview, so he's coming up right after the break. But before we go to the break, of course, viewers, we are going to ask you to do what? Share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be back.
Everybody only worrying. Never ever worry. Don't mind how things looking hard. I tell them never ever worry. If your nice car get damaged bad. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. Don't mind if life make you sad. I tell them never ever worry. If your house get flooded out real bad. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. If sickness catch you off guard. I tell them never ever worry. If times fall on you real hard. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil will always be here for you.
Never worry about a thing. Tatil, where people are people. You know what I mean.
Tapicom. Welcome to the future. The only card you will need in a new world. Digital business cards. Safe, hassle-free. The future is here. Tapicom. New generation digital transfer. Digital time clock cards. Digital attendance cards. Air tags. Customized designs. Digital clothing tags. Digital pet tags. Tapicom. The future is here. Contact us today.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place.
Yeah, so welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show. Thank you so much for staying with us. And of course, don't forget to share the live, share the live, share the live. And of course, as we continue with the program this morning, we have on set with us Mr. Joseph Frederick, and he's the Director of Innovation Development Nerds International. Joseph, good morning, and thank you so much for being with us here this morning.
Good morning, Marcus, and good morning to your viewers. It's indeed a pleasure to be on Tobago Updates. You know that I focus on our program. So it's really nice to be on, I would say, a sister program here in Tobago as we, as Tobagonians, work towards collaboratively developing the space. It's important that we see the value of us all working together to harness our collective potential and thereby developing our space.
I must commend you for your color of choice this morning. I like the orange.
This was the color that we had for Young Innovators Camp 2022, and I'm hoping that at some point in time in the discussion we can look at how do we develop young innovators in the Tobago space, because as much as we speak to developing the economy, it's very important that we see the value of innovation and innovation among our young people, and then we need to answer the question, how do we equip them with the skills necessary so that they can become innovators?
And before we get into the discussion about the camp itself, tell us a little bit about your organization.
Well, Nerds International, we started in about 2008 with the singular mission of attempting to turn young people to a life of nerdism, if you want me to say that. So a lot of people, when they hear the name nerds, they begin to laugh. It somehow exists in our space where most of our young people believe that being a nerd is not cool. But when you look at persons who would have been the drivers and movers and shakers of our economy, a large proportion of them, if not all of them, are nerds. And so if we want our young people as they age to be proud of who they are and their contribution to our society, then we must encourage them to be nerds. It is cool to go and sit and read a book. It is cool to go and tinker with a television or any old equipment that you may have around your yard or at your home. We must make that cool if we are going to diversify the economy, as many of our leaders strongly suggest that there is a need to begin diversifying our economy away from oil and natural gas. The Prime Minister, I think sometime between 2018 and 2020, he went on a summit where he signed an agreement for us to, by 2030, to move away from fossil fuel or vehicles being run by fossil fuel. What that means is that most economies that are dependent on fossil fuel will now be at risk. So the question is, how do we begin to transition? And Nerds International believes that at this present time, we're in the fourth industrial revolution, which is centered on information and communication technology. We must, one, have the information, and two, we must be able to synthesize that information and then utilize that information for effective communication.
So all that you have mentioned there, is that to be expected in this upcoming July-August camp? Is that how we're going to fashion this camp, or share with us about the camp?
The camp is centered on providing young people with 4 basic skills, in addition to having projects that are centered on developing their innovation or their creativity skills. So the one component is animation, the other is robotics. The third is animation, robotics, innovation. I seem to be missing something going to happen to all of us. So we have animation, we have robotics, we have programming, which is very important, and also we have electronics. We believe that these are the 4 building blocks of developing that ecosystem that we need in our space. In my research, it spoke to the development of internet unicorns. And an internet unicorn is a private company that would have a market valuation of over $1 billion. In 2013, when that term was coined, there were only 39 of them. At this present time that we are speaking, there are 4.5 million of them, 450, with a market capitalization of $4.5 trillion. What we are saying here is that we are looking at a market that has grown exponentially. The question is, what is our ability at this present time to participate in that marketplace? And so we need to get our young people to see that the traditional jobs, because this is what the digital economy is going to do. It is going to move us away from the traditional jobs, the manual jobs, and move us towards jobs that are centered on utilizing our digital skills. We are now, a lot of the scholars are saying that we are now there on the crux, or we have already been in the middle of the 4th industrial revolution. And one thing that has marked all industrial revolution is the ability of persons or a human resource to move the skills that they have had from that was required in that part of the economy before to the new phase that is coming. So at one point, the first industrial revolution was where we were moving away from farmers and going to using machines. At that point in time, the country that was the driving force of this was England. And we see where England is today as it relates to the size of the economy. We have transitioned along the way, and America seems to be the one that is out in front, developing in that 3rd industrial revolution. We're using automation and that kind of thing. And we have seen what it has done to the economy. The question is, if we want to grow our economy, then we must see the need to equip our young people with the tools to participate in that aspect of the economic development. One thing that we are hoping to do with Nerds International is to create that ecosystem for our young people, because it's hard as a nerd sometimes to be, and sometimes we like it and we like to be by ourselves and do our thing by ourselves. But if we have an ecosystem where if I am creating a game, I know, Marcus, you are across there doing some animation. So I come to Marcus and I say, Marcus, there's something about it. I go in and do a game that is centered on the core construct of Tobago heritage. Yeah? Where you're going to have to fight against Sokonian, Lachables, and that kind of thing. Can you create the animation for me? And now that the animation has been created, what we need to do is that we need to begin merchandising. Do we have persons in this space with the necessary electronic skills that could possibly create a little Lachables that flap in a wing? And so that's what we are attempting to do here for Tobago and Tobago young people.
And how does someone get involved in this camp? I mean, is there a social media page or they call you? Because, I mean, just listening to all the things that you have been saying here, it sounds very interesting. I think I'm not a nerd, but I would love to create stuff and be innovative.
Why are you not a nerd?
Yes. And I'm sure that there are persons maybe asking, I mean, after I come to your camp and I innovate, what's next for me?
Well, we said this last year, but we were unable to get the conversation going in a real way.
Yeah.
But again, we're looking at creating the ecosystem. So the ecosystem, in our estimation, will be created based on the establishment of clubs. So we're looking at creating young innovator clubs that are centered. So if your aim, because we spoke to 4 disciplines in the camp: animation, robotics, electronics, and programming. You're not going to be interested in everything.
Yes.
But if you like to draw, Right? Because I meet a lot of parents that will say, well, you know, my child likes to draw. But they are seeing a piece of paper and they're putting an artwork on the piece of paper. We want to get them to see not a piece of paper, but several slides creating an animation. I'm hoping that in one of the videos that was shown there, that we saw some animation where persons who like to draw can now take that drawing and create an animation. Persons who believe that they want to create the next video game. That on stage you're saying there's a 2D animation, and before that there was a 3D animation.
And we also talking about artificial intelligence
This
as well.
2D animation that you're seeing here, it is actually 100 slides. So if you like to draw, that is 100 pages that you have to draw on to create this animation. Also, you're seeing some young persons.
What's the age group? What's the age group that you are targeting?
We are targeting young people between the ages of 8 to 16. Now, no, we're not putting all of them together. We're going to have a group that is focused on 8 to 10 and a group that is focused on 10 to 16. So the course would be structured based on the age group of the participants.
And who are some of the facilitators of this program? Besides yourself, are they going to be nerds?
No, Nerds International is partnering with Tobago Information Technology Limited. Right?
So that's going to be where the camp will be based.
Williams. He had some meetings this morning, so he could not be a part of this conversation that we're having here now. The facilitators, we have facilitators that have skills in all the areas that we are speaking about. Some of them coming from Trinidad, and they would be engaging our young people in the development of these skills.
Yeah, so as I mentioned or asked earlier, in terms of persons watching this program and they want to get involved, or is it that you have already cut off your numbers? this is very sounds very juicy, and I can see parents wanting to get their children involved, especially during the July vacation period, where most times they find time to do stupidness.
Yes.
I think this is something that they probably should sign up for. How can they get involved?
Well, you can contact 211, or you can go to either my Nerds International Facebook page, and also the Tobago Information Technology Limited Facebook page.
Yeah, and is there a course attached?
It's a minimum cost of $999 to participate in this camp, given what you are getting. And I know that viewers have seen what we have been doing with the young people over the past. We started the first edition of the Young Innovators Camp started in 2018. And based on the response last year, parents were very excited. Every time the child came home, they were excited because we give them homework. Right. So every time the child came home, the child was very excited to go and sit and do the homework. one of the assignments that we gave them in the innovation segment of the program was, here's what, we all go to school. What is one challenge that as school children you have? And of course, it was talk about fighting and so forth, and then we landed on people going into your bag. And so we said, here's what, can you create a model of an alarm system that would work with your bag? So when somebody who goes into, or when someone goes into your bag, the alarm goes off, and so you know, here's what, somebody going into my bag. And they were really excited about it. A young lady, Miss Susanna Thompson, Miss Susanna Thompson. She was the winner of that category. She created a really amazing model. It's unfortunate that I wasn't able to show it in these videos. But really, that's what we're attempting to get to our young people. Because somehow, in third world countries, we only see ourselves as consumers of the technology. We never see ourselves as creators of the technology. And if we are to participate in that $1.5 trillion economy, then we must see ourselves as producers of technology, not only sitting and playing a game, not only sitting and utilizing Word on your tablet, but seeing yourselves as actually being a creator of technology.
Joseph, I want to thank you so much for being with us here this morning. I think the camp will be oversubscribed. I may send my children there as well. Of course, creating the future innovators here in Tobago, and of course, Trinidad.
Making it cool to be a
Making it cool to be a Thank you so much, Joseph, for being with us here this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Viewers, up next we have Dr. Lisa Ghani and Dr. Amy Paul, and they're going to be talking about the Dongchin Joe Family Network Workshop right here in Tobago and next week. Remember to share the life, share the life. We'll be right back.
Advertise with Tobago Updates. Call 284-6597. If you have a small or large business, we can get your information in front of the masses. Reach our rapidly growing vision on Facebook and YouTube. Promote your brand in Trinidad and the Caribbean through M&E TV now and Gael. Yes, we can build unique ads for your business. Call now 284-6597 and advertise with us.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash and transit service. Safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back, viewers, to Tobago Updates. This is your morning show. We continue our program, and our final interview as we round up this morning's show is with Miss Lisa Ghani. She's the honorary board member of the Down Syndrome Family Network, and Dr. Amy Paul Ward, who's a cross-trained social scientist. And we're talking about Down Syndrome Family Network. They're going to be hosting a family workshop, so we're going to get a little bit of insight on this as they bring us up to speed. Good morning, ladies, and welcome to the program this morning. How are you guys doing?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. Good morning. Very good, thank you.
Right, so tell us a little bit, give us a little background on the Down Syndrome Family Network and what your program is about and when it's going to be taking place.
The Down Syndrome Family Network is an organization that was formed about 11 years ago by some parents of persons with Down syndrome, and they have been conducting a series of workshops and other type of awareness and education activities that help to empower families with persons with Down syndrome. The end result, of course, is that we are looking at inclusion, awareness, and of course, empowering the families to be able to look after the person within their care, and also to ensure that the person can live a full and productive life through, early interventions and support, and also, of course, to encourage Trinidad and Tobago to make sure that the human rights of persons with disabilities also are at the forefront of everything that we do.
This is so awesome because I think the education on these social illnesses is very important, not just for the person who is, I don't want to use the word suffering, but the person who has the syndrome, but more so the family members as well, because a lot of times, many people don't know, but when I did my degree in the United Kingdom, I worked in a nursing home, and I took care of people with dementia. And one of the things that they paid attention to is ensuring the relatives of the residents were educated on the illness so that they're able to care for them. I think it's very important what you are doing, trying to educate our public, trying to educate the relatives of the person with the illnesses so we can provide the right type of care, understand the illness and provide the right type of care. So I think that is very, very commendable. Right, so tell us a little bit about what else you'll be doing. When is the program? What are your expectations? Who would you like to see there? Who would you like to reach and stuff like that?
Okay, well, we have been doing these workshops in Tobago because everything that we do in Trinidad, of course, we do in Tobago as well. And we've been doing these workshops for families for over 10 years. And also we do our annual conference. Again, you are very correct in saying that, we have to educate the parents who are really the first sort of advocates for their children, to make sure that they understand exactly what Down syndrome is, and what is available to them, by government and other associations and organizations, and schools, of course, being a primary facility that will help their kids, to progress. So the family workshops are held every quarter, and so we have one coming up on Thursday, the 29th of June at Shaw Park. They're always free to the public, but you must register to attend. Registration is online. We have our Facebook page, our Instagram page. We also have a director in Tobago, Mrs. Liana Alexander, who works with the Tobago House of Assembly and the different divisions of health, education, etc., to ensure that schools and the community at large is aware of the workshops. This month, our theme is physical and mental training leads to capacity building, because capacity building is building up that toolkit of resources that you have, to be able to decide what does your person with Down syndrome need, where do they need to focus on as far as development is concerned. And we always bring in speakers, very distinguished speakers like Dr. Amy Paul Ward, who will be speaking this time, and Renuka Gittins, who is also a physical trainer and therapist. So they are going to be our main speakers, and they will speak to this theme as well.
Fantastic. I really like the theme of the event. Physical and mental training leads to capacity building. And I want to bring in Dr. Amy Paul Ward. She's listed as one of the facilitators for this program. That she's going to be talking about the ability awareness in the education system. Wanting to you, Dr. Paul Ward. Tell us what we expect on this particular topic.
Okay, well, I think that one of the things that we definitely need to focus on both in Trinidad and Tobago is opportunities for redesigning the educational system. As an outside scholar who has been to Trinidad, this is my second visit to the countries, I've had an opportunity to bring an outside perspective to the different community-based organizations that I've been collaborating with. And so the focus of my presentation will be to make comparisons to other educational systems, pointing out opportunities where the school system, through the ministries of education, both in Trinidad and Tobago, can begin to provide opportunities for more inclusion within the government school system, so that individuals with various disabilities, Down syndrome and others, will provide more opportunities for children to fully realize their educational potential. I couldn't help but be interested in the individual that presented a few minutes ago on your show about innovation and the importance of the fourth industrial revolution. Well, we need to make sure that children with disabilities in both countries have the skills needed to participate in the economic development of both Trinidad and Tobago. And that is not possible if we don't take into account how to bring in children with disabilities into the school system.
Yeah, fantastic. I think it's indeed timely, and something that I expect that you have a large turnout. And how has health registration been? Are you having persons showing interest in being part of the program?
Yes, we have. As I said, we've been doing this for quite some time, in Tobago. And so therefore, the stakeholders are very aware of the interventions of the Down Syndrome Family Network. Usually these sessions would have between 80 and 100 persons, which sort of cross the the spectrum of teachers, persons in education, in the health sector, and also, families, parents of persons with Down syndrome. And I think that what Dr. Amy said is extremely important. When we look at the range of persons living with disabilities now, and first we need to understand what disability your child has. Many people still have not had their children assessed, and therefore they live in, and I use the word most respectfully, in ignorance, because they don't want to find out. Sometimes they're afraid of the diagnosis, or they're ashamed. And we still have a lot of these taboos in Trinidad and Tobago. And, I think knowledge is power. And therefore, when we come to sessions like this and we become more informed, we're in a better position to assist that person to live a full life. It's not anymore about just taking care of the person and making sure that they're fed and bathed. It's really about empowerment. And we have no excuses now. As a society, I think what the Down Syndrome Network and other associations like them, the Autism and Cerebral Palsy, and so what these organizations have really done very well is to create awareness. Now we need action. And action is personal action, personal responsibility, and then support by the government to be able to, to make sure that it's equitable for all.
That's right. And we really like the fact that you're very proactive about this and you're very passionate about it, because, we want inclusion and we want everybody to be able to enjoy, a good standard of living. So thank you, ladies, so much for joining us on the program this morning and for sharing information on the workshop. Guys, it's happening on the 29th of June at Shaw Park Complex. So those of you who haven't registered yet, there's still time to do so. Guys, we are wrapping our show this morning. We had a beautiful time today. Marcus, of course, again, thank you so much for being here with us. This is family, this is home, right? And it has been a pleasure being with you guys this morning. And we are wrapping this morning. But before we go, we want you to know that Tobago Notes is up next, followed by GMT. And also follow us this evening on Player Channel 102 for the news at 6:30 p.m. Before we head out, we hand you over to Tobago Notes. Remember also to share the live, share the live, share the live.
Special Olympics has done Trinidad and Tobago justly proud. We have represented Trinidad and Tobago for the last 40 years, including athletes with intellectual disabilities in mainstream sport. Our last outing in international games, we went to Abu Dhabi and we brought home in excess of 50 medals.
What a privilege it is to be here today at the Special Olympics Trinidad and Tobago Norma James Community Caravan Tobago Games. After a 2 years hiatus, the National Games are finally back, setting our athletes on the road to the World Games in Berlin.
The Chief Secretary would have recently gave a directive that every division across the THA, we must hire people who we consider our the special needs children. They are a part of our society. They can make a positive contribution. If they are able enough to go out there and win medals, represent TNT, they are good enough to be a part of the workforce and a part of taking Tobago forward.
Today, we celebrate inclusivity. Today, we celebrate diversity, that every single person with air in their lungs and life have a purpose in life. God placed us all here for a reason, and we all have something to contribute. The differently able, the specially able, the intellectually disabled, whatever you want to call it, as long as there's life in you, there's work for you to do, to shine, and to showcase the glory of God.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
Yeah. Hey. Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace and Denasia. It's a brand new morning, rise up to a brand new dawning. As the passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies.
Welcome to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates, your source for current affairs in Tobago, Trinidad, and the region. With the perfect conversations to complement your morning routine, I am Candace Jackson, and let's get started with the news in 90 seconds. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley accused Chief Secretary Farley of Guston of being untruthful about many issues involving the THA and central government. Addressing a PNM public meeting in Calder Hall, Rowley revealed that the candidate he approved to replace the retired chief administrator was under investigation since November 2022. He explained that the notice of the investigation was issued by the former chief administrator. Meanwhile, Rowley accused Augustine of requesting a different public servant to fill the chief administrator position. As a result, Dr. Rowley believes the suspension of his candidate was to allow Augustine's candidate to fill the position. Meanwhile, Assamiman Watson Duke held a march on Labor Day fighting against unemployment within the Tobago House of Assembly. The march commenced at Kings Bay and ended at the Roxborough Jetty. In his feature address, he posited that the Chief Secretary, Farley Augustine, has abandoned the mandate to put Tobagonians first. He noted that workers belonging to agriculture, CPEP, and URP gangs have salary concerns that need to be addressed by the THA urgently. Assamiman Watson Duke claimed that the current administration is mortgaging the children's future and urged Tobagonians to take a stand. And finally, about 60 people gathered in Scarborough to demand the resignation of Chief Secretary Farley Augustine and the entire Executive Council. The march was led by the concerned citizens of Tobago and included several prominent members of the Tobago Council of the PNM. Political leader Ansel Dennis said it is unprecedented for a THA administration to be under police investigation. He called on them to step down while investigations are ongoing. Meanwhile, Minority Leader Calvin Morris said Augustine's admission about the infamous audio tape shows his guilt in corruption. And that was the news in 90 seconds, brought to you by Coconut's Cafe.
Coconut's Cafe, the buffet restaurant that specializes in all your tasty local dishes. For breakfast and for lunch. Breakfast includes coconut bake and sada roti, served with chokers, bull joil, and sausages in tomato sauce. Not forgetting beef and cheese pies, shepherd's pie, macaroni pie, and rice in various styles. Meat served in a variety of flavors, garden salads, and pasta salads. All this accompanied by fruit juices, coconut water, your choice of a great combination to appease your taste buds. So call us today to order, as we are here to accommodate your busy schedules or if you are having a cooking day off.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Well, viewers, the political scene is very, very hot in Tobago, as you guys have been observing over the past week or so. I mean, it's quite a lot of buzz, so much buzz that we had the Prime Minister here at a political meeting in Calder Hall yesterday evening. And now to discuss some of the things that was said on the platform, yes, last night, as a matter of fact, we have Senator Lawrence Hislop on set with us. Good morning and welcome to you, sir. How are you doing?
Morning, Candice. Thank you for having me. I'm doing fine. I'm doing great this morning.
Great. So let's get into that meeting last night. First of all, we had the Prime Minister here in Tobago at a time when local government election campaigning is heating up in Trinidad. Just tell me about him being here.
Well, remember the Prime Minister is the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And even if local government elections are heating up in Trinidad, there was something critical that he needed to come to address. Because it is critical for us in our governance, and that is the chief administrator. And that was the main reason why he decided to have a conversation with us, with Tobagonians, about what transpired and what is transpiring with the whole chief administrator issue. So that is why he chose to come to speak to us directly and not, I know some people would always have an issue with him speaking from Trinidad. So he decided to come to Tobago to speak to us, to educate us, to bring us up to speed on the process, and as the reason why at this time we are without a chief administrator.
Now, hearing that explanation, actually, before you hear that explanation, I want you to go through some of the things that the Prime Minister explained about why we are in a position without a chief administrator right now.
Well, as he laid out the timelines as to when the conversation actually started, and why we are in now. The dates are a lot of dates in terms of the letters being
starting as far back as November 22.
As far back as November. And one of the things that he highlighted was the fact that this would not have been an issue had the conversation come up that the person who was in line, there were questions to be asked of this person. And so if the situation started since November with the initial letters between the then chief ad and the permanent secretary in the Prime Minister's office about this movement having to take place, if everything went as normal or as planned, then we would have had a chief ad. Because as he highlighted, one was to go off on retirement on the 17th, I think it was, and the other one, based on the letter, was to come in right after the day after. But because there was this whole issue that arose, that's why we ended up in the situation. And then to add to that, you had the situation with the deputy chairman of the Public Service Commission, that also his contract also ended, so that vacancy needed to be filled. So that is why we unfortunately, that's why we're in the situation that we're in.
Are you satisfied with the explanation provided by the Prime Minister?
Well, yes, because the explanation given by the Prime Minister was clearly laid out in the guidelines, the law, the steps that are to be followed in order for us to get to the point of a chief administrator. And the reality is the average citizen would not have known all of these intricate steps, because on the 17th or on the 18th, we would have gotten up the next morning and we had a chief ad. But because things came in to interfere with those steps, so I'm satisfied, and I can speak for those who were at the meeting last night, and even those who may have been listening. If you listened objectively, I can't see why you couldn't understand what the Prime Minister was trying to explain, bar all the dates and the timelines that he was
What about
giving.
in terms of the role of the Public Service Commission? Because key to all of this, the Public Service Commission is the link between, making sure that they formulate that person and forward it to the Prime Minister for approval, and then it comes back to them to enact it.
Right.
What about their role in all of this? What are your opinions and as to, what went wrong there as well?
No, I don't think anything went wrong from a Public Service Commission standpoint, because just as the Prime Minister, the Public Service Commission followed the guidelines that are laid out and based on the law. And so I don't think from a Public Service Commission standpoint, there was an issue, right? Based on what was said last night and what has been in the space since then, we recognize that there had to be an issue from a chief ad Tobago House of Assembly situation where everything just didn't seem to coincide or gel cohesively enough for the process to be as smoothly as it normally is. Because this is something that has been done since we started to have administrators and chief administrators in the Tobago House of Assembly. And so obviously there was a breakdown based on the steps that were laid out last night by the Prime Minister. There was a breakdown when it comes to what the chief ad was supposed to do, what and I don't even want to bring the politicians into this, because what he clearly laid out last night were the steps that were to be taken by the public servants. Right? And those steps were not followed as they should have been from a THA standpoint. And because of that, we ended up in the situation that we in.
Now, have you used your power as a senator to, sort of see what's going on and to see if there's a way that we could resolve this situation? Because unfortunately, until this situation is resolved, as former Chief Secretary Ho Choi Charles yesterday stated, it's a disastrous situation because the role of the chief administrator is so important and crucial to the business of the assembly.
Well, what I could tell you is that from my position, I have no power where that is concerned. The persons who are dealing with it, because as the Prime Minister said, hopefully by this week, all of that should be sorted out. Because the Public Service Commission now has a deputy chairman. Obviously, they would now forward who the person should be. That will come to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister will treat with it. He and the Chief Secretary will consult. So I don't think this week should pass without us having a chief ad. If it does, then early in the new week, I believe it should be sorted out. So those who have the power to deal with it are treating with it.
Now, there was quite a few other allegations or interesting things that came out from what the Prime Minister said. He accused this present administration of, playing the blame game.
Yeah.
In the same way that the opposition is in Trinidad. And I want to get your view on that.
Well, listen, Tobagonians, citizens can see for themselves that when this administration won the election, as the Prime Minister re-emphasized last night, he gave clear directives to his ministers. He took it upon himself to give all the necessary assistance that the Tobago House of Assembly required, because of the fact that it was a young administration with inexperienced persons. And even Mr. Ho Choi Charles spoke to that the entire Executive Council were practically inexperienced people. And so the Prime Minister went out of his way to assist the administration to make sure that everything runs. Because at the end of the day, what people need to understand is, being the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, you still have a responsibility for governance to be done seamlessly and smoothly, even in Tobago, even if you don't have direct responsibility. And so he instructed his cabinet ministers who have partner secretaries in Tobago, meet with them, treat with them, give them whatever assistance they require. And the admission by some of the senior people in the THA is that these meetings were very cordial. Right, were extremely cordial, and they were given the assistance that they needed. I don't understand where the fight, where the bacchanal started, why we now have a situation that everything that arises in Tobago that the administration is unable to manage, it is the central government's fault. It is the Prime Minister's fault. You have been elected by the people to govern, to manage Tobago, to manage a budget allocation that is sent to Tobago. If you are unable to do that, how is that the central government's fault? And now we have a situation where there's all this back and forth and all this argument about...
And the situation has accelerated so much that the Prime Minister last night said that he doesn't want to have a conversation anymore with the Chief Secretary unless there's a third person present.
No, for me, that hit me really hard last night. And this is not, and I'm not saying this from a party standpoint, I'm saying this from a Tobagonian standpoint. When our Prime Minister can say that he does not want to have a conversation with our Chief Secretary unless there is a third party, that does not augur well for our governance. When the two most senior politicians between Trinidad and Tobago can't have a conversation one-on-one because one is afraid that whatever is said in that conversation could be revealed.
Do you think it's justified?
Well, you have to ask the Prime Minister that. And based on what has transpired within the last couple of weeks with the chief administrator issue and then the issue of Friday's media briefing, where allegations were made. Now, the average person hearing that two senior government officials would have called and said, pay these monies to these contracts. The average person automatically would think the two persons, and I thought it even before the Prime Minister said it last night, that the two senior people that the Chief Secretary could be alluding to is the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance. Mm-hmm. And when we have a situation like that, and the Prime Minister is now saying, I don't want to have no conversation with the Chief Secretary unless there is a third party, something is wrong with the governance in Tobago.
And it's interesting because that reaction seems to be so similar to what's going on with the opposition, the relationship with the opposition, which is so adversarial in Trinidad at this point in time.
Yeah, well, you see, I sit in a place where you see things firsthand. And what is significant is a level of, and hate is a strong word, but there's a level of despise that is you see coming from the opposition for sometimes no reason whatsoever, and you wonder why. Yeah, and so in Trinidad there is that dynamic and there's that understanding, and it has even gotten worse as we get closer to local government election, right? But it is sad that we have to come to a point, because even as adversarial as Mr. Charles was in his tenure as Chief Secretary, we never had a Prime Minister utter those words. And Mr. Charles has been able to straddle both entities in Trinidad. But you never had either of those Prime Ministers saying, I don't want to talk to Mr. Charles unless there's a third party.
All right, we're going to stick a pin there on this conversation, but we got to take a quick break. So viewers, please don't go anywhere, because we'll be back right after this.
The energy fill the sky. This is how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show. And everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up below. This is your show. And everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show.
Are you looking for a place for your loved ones? Heavenly Care welcomes you. Located at Northside Road opposite Massey Motors, we offer a variety of services. These include doctor visitations, social activities, geriatric care, and much more. Contact us at 277-9595 or visit us at Northside Road opposite Massey Motors. At Heavenly Care, compassion is at the heart of all care.
Yeah. Hey.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace and...
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. And we're not just Tobago Updates, viewers. In case you haven't found out yet, or you've been living under a rock, we are Tobago Updates Television. And you can view us on channel 102 on Amplia for 24-hour programming. Yes, All It Is Tobago is coming to you through your TV sets via the Amplia facilities. So get connected and see all the good stuff that we have to offer. All right, viewers, so we are continuing our conversation with Senator Lawrence Hislop as we discuss some of the things that came out of the PNM political meeting last night in Calder Hall. Now, before we went to the break, we were talking a little bit about some of the adversarial relationships that's developing between the central government and the THA And we're seeing, we heard the accusations from the Prime Minister that it is mirroring that of the relationship between the opposition and the central government, which is also very adversarial. Now, I mean, some of the accusations that were made last night was that for the Chief Secretary Fali Augustine and his team are aligned to the UNC. Is there any evidence that you guys have that points to that?
But if you want to put it this way, the proof is in the eating. So there may not be cold hard evidence, but when you look at the behaviors are too similar. I'll give you one example. I sat on the research that created all of this hoopla, and one of my colleagues on the job didn't ask a single question. And to me, that says a lot, because that particular committee is the most vocal committee. And we had an opportunity to scrutinize the THA in particular. And it is as that and even some mirror experience, because for me, what is for the and get the road done.
Well, on what is picking up for
ask particular questions about why this road was done the way it was done, why this contract within such a short period of time between the submission and why the haste, why the rush? Something seems fishy, and that's asking pertinent questions. But when you come to a situation where you have a planned project that has been on the books, you are now in office seeking to execute that project. What's the haste in trying to do the project without getting your necessary approvals? Knowing that if you don't get the necessary approvals, there is a possibility that you could be challenged by the authority or the agency that is responsible for that.
Now, I want to address the matter of that $100 million that was allocated in the mid-year budget review.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on it a little bit before, but I'm going to get now, I mean, because when we listened to the Minister of Finance, there was, actually he did not even mention that in his initial statement in Parliament. And but it was not, or was there much said as to the explanation for what money was intended?
And we
so it's not
that the Chief Secretary was when the fortunes of the country started to turn around in terms of its revenue, each ministry was asked, or each ministry brought the debt that it incurred through COVID, brought that to the fore with the finance minister. And as he said, the THA was not left out. And so that 100 million was to assist the THA in clearing off some of the debt as well.
What do you know about the details of which debts it was supposed to be cleared by that money?
No, but you see, that's the thing about the THA. Once the government sends the money, once the central government forwards an allocation to the Tobago House of Assembly, the THA has within its power to move around the money, to put the money. So even if even if the monies were negotiated from central government to do a particular thing, once that comes to Tobago, the THA has the power to say we are going to take this money and do X, Y, Z instead, accordingly as the needs arise. And so it could have been negotiated for that, and it was the additional assistance to help clear debt. I don't know exactly what the debt was, but the fact of the matter is the THA made a request and the central government acceded to the request and the 100 million was given.
Have you been speaking with any of the contractors that are owed money? And have you been making any petitions to the government, to the THA, etc., on their behalf to help them be able to get the money that's owed to them?
No, but you see, that's clearly the responsibility of the Tobago House of Assembly. You are there, you know the situation. You came into office saying that you will do things differently, and whatever the issue is, you are going to fix it. But we into a year and a half of an administration, and you have contractors literally crying out. For any project that starts in Tobago, you have contractors crying out for work. They want to get work. And you're telling me, and I go back to that Chauvin Road because it is a significant chunk of our development budget. Now you're telling me that 64, 65 million or how much is the value for the work there. You're telling me that you could not have found 3 Tobago contractors or even 2 who had the ability to do that work at Chauvin. Split it up into packages. Because as was said...
Even though these people are already owed some money.
But that's the thing about even Trinidad. There are contractors who are owed significant money. That's the government system, unfortunately.
And even in a situation where the arrangement was to do that bolt arrangement where you pay later.
But you see, we pretend as if that method is an old method. If it was not an old method, or if it was an old method, let me put it this way, we would not have had a debt. It is obviously that contractors in Tobago did the same thing for years. They used their own finances to do work and to be paid later by the Tobago House of Assembly. That's why we have a debt.
I also want to address the $300 million that was, $100 million in contracts that was allegedly awarded, prior to the elections. That this is the accusations that's coming from the chief secretary, right? These were awarded prior to the elections, and that's sort of setting up a situation where it might be difficult for the THA, based on their allocations from central government, to be able to pay all of those debts within, let's say, a year or 2 time.
But you see, all governments incur debt, and all new administrations incur debt from an old administration, because governance is a continuum. Governance is about the public servants working within a framework of policy created by a political party or a government. And so all governments incur debt. And I was fortunate to be part of a lecture done by a senior member of the IDB, and he said that this notion that we have that debt is bad for governments is a wrong notion. It's how you manage your debt. All governments incur debt because there are things that you have to do that you are unable to do with your revenue, but you have to provide a service to your population. And so when you talk about a $300 million debt that was incurred, that was work that was done to the benefit of Tobagonians.
But then how should the THA then deal with that, given the constraints of an
allocation?
Of an allocation that's actually even less than that debt that was incurred.
How did previous administrations do it? You have to negotiate with your contractors. You have to talk to your contractors.
But in a situation where you have one contractor demanding all the payments, no.
And that's what I'm saying. You have to talk to your contractors. You have to negotiate with your contractors. Because you look at, even in Trinidad, there are major contractors in Trinidad that are owed millions of dollars. But what happens? These same contractors continue to get work because this is what a contractor understands. If I continue to work in the environment, if I continue to do the work in the country, it means that I continue to get monies. So yeah, I worked with a particular contractor on the airport some years ago, and I found out that it was 5 years after we finished the work that the contractor got paid for the work. Now that's not ideal. It's not ideal, and it is something that each government seeks to rectify, right? And even with this new procurement legislation, there are some significant clauses in it that should close that gap. So when you continue to have conversations with your contractors and you continue to talk with them and engage them in work, what happens? Your economy keeps spinning. Your economy keeps moving. Your low-level economy, your middle and your high economy keeps moving because the contractors keep individuals employed, and by the contractors being employed, you create that movement in the economy, in the mini mart, in the supermarket, in just entertainment. You keep that happening, and so you speak to your contractors. You keep the conversation going with your contractors, and they understand that once I continue to work in this particular space and I have a relationship with you, then I'm fine. But when you don't pay your contractors and then you blacklist, and I know the chief secretary has an issue with that line, but then you blacklist contractors or you give work to contractors that Tobagonians could do, then you're going to have a problem.
All right. Well, we're going to have to leave it right there, Mr. Hislop, and maybe we can get more into details about these things, and especially as these issues develop within our space.
Sure.
Thank you for being on.
It was a pleasure.
Yes, certainly. And viewers, please don't go anywhere because we'll be back right after this break with more.
We are people in the sun. We are beaches, we are rivers. We are melanated ones. We special and there is no denying.
Everybody only worrying. Never ever worry. Don't mind how things looking hard. I tell them never ever worry. If your nice car get damaged bad, I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. Don't mind if life make you sad. I tell them never ever worry. If your house get flooded out real bad, I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. If sickness catch you off guard, I tell them never ever worry. If times fall on you real hard, I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil will always be here for you.
Never worry about a thing. Tatil, where people are people. You know what I mean.
Advertise with Tobago Update. Call 284-6597. If you have a small or large business, we can get your information in front of the masses. Reach our rapidly growing viewership on Facebook and YouTube. Promote your brand in Trinidad and the Caribbean through M&E TV Now and Gayel. Yes, we can build unique ads for your business. Call now 284-6597 and advertise with us.
October will never be better with Tobago Carnival fever. Book your passage and come on over. Yeah. Hey.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates Television. Yes, folks, television, you heard it correct. We are available now on channel 102 on Amplia. So please get connected to see all our content coming to you. Now, joining us online is the Assemblyman for Roxborough Argyle, Mr. Watson Duke. Good morning and welcome to you, sir. How are you doing?
Hey, great morning, Tobago Updates, Tobago people.
Blessed love, man. Blessed love.
Loving the
To be
energy
here.
this morning, Mr. Duke.
Yeah. So what's
All
up?
right.
What's up?
Sorry about that.
I say, what's up today?
Well, the sun is shining on Tobago, and we are looking forward to a very interesting week. Now, Mr. Duke, now you had your walk yesterday, your march from Kings Bay to Roxborough yesterday, and did it go as you planned?
Exactly. I think, you could see me dancing. I enjoyed myself. The people, they enjoy themselves. Whatever I do, I base it on statistics, hardcore facts. I'm not a man carried by emotions or just someone whispering into my ear. I really base it on hardcore facts. I could tell you the truth that yesterday was a hallmark for Tobago East insofar as labor is concerned.
Why do you say that?
Never before in the history of Tobago was there ever a labor march in Tobago East. As a matter of fact, the first time labor came to Tobago in March, it was I, as the president of NATUC, invited all of the labor unions to come to Tobago in March. And they did that 2 years back to back a few years ago when I was the president of the National Trade Union Center. So I pride Tobago's involvement in labor to be very critical. And what I did yesterday was something quite new. I went to the Tobago East, particularly Fort Roxborough, which is my district, and we did something that awakened the senses of the people. And now they are eagerly looking forward to next year March. I want to keep it up. I want to maintain it because the Belmana riots that took place in 1876, May 1st to May 5th, took place because of labor issues arising out of the plantation, where workers felt to themselves that they were not being treated justly. They will be given less than minimum wage. And also when they collected their money, they had to pay it back for groceries and doctors and living expenses. So they were arguing and protesting. And then came down a white man by the name of Belmana from the police station to break up the local protest. And he fired a shot and killed a woman. And that angered the people. They immediately asked for the arrest and the death penalty for Belmana. They brought him to the Roxborough court, which remain in shambles today because of the government that we have currently. But I'll get to that just now. Right? It's in shambles, it's disrepair, there's no court going on there. But in 1876, that courthouse was alive. And in 1876, when they brought Belmana into the courtroom to be charged, the crowd gathered outside in the numbers and they demanded justice, blood for blood. The magistrate then said, let's take him to the High Court in Scarborough. And when they were about to bring him out of the house, the crowd grabbed him and they beat him to a pulp. He ended up in the hospital and died a few days after. But not just did they beat him, they began to burn and loot and destroy the entire estate of Roxborough. It was so intense that they had to send a ship that was going to Grenada to inform the naval fleet, the British naval fleet, which was resident to Barbados, to come. That came some 5 days later and found Tobago under full siege of the workers. It started in Roxborough. May I dare say to you that when the revolution, this political revolution to take Tobago away from the PNM stronghold started, it started in Roxborough, right at the boatyard where I started my campaign in 2015, right at the boatyard where I concluded my speech yesterday. So Roxborough is very significant in the history and development of Tobago, and may I say even Trinidad and the wider Caribbean. Roxborough has a lot of labor issues. So it was a significant day, a hallmark day. Took me a long while, but I had to justify it.
Now, we saw that there was not that many people on the march. Was the numbers anything that you expected?
Well, I don't expect numbers anymore because I tell you something. The world has changed. People sometimes are not physically present, but they're present online. And I could tell you, my march would have attracted 36,000 persons viewing it. as opposed to the large march at Faizabad, which would have attracted about just 2,000 persons viewing it. And so when you look at my march, it was viewed more by more persons than the usual Labor Day march in Faizabad that have all the unions. So did I receive the type of response I expected? Yes, I did expect the response. I did get the response I wanted. Did I announce myself as being present in Tobago? Yes, I did announce myself. Tobago has woken up today and they're talking about what's due the march and whether or not, you know what I mean, how his chances are, who love him, who hate him. That's life. I engage that type of dialogue on a daily basis. So yes, I'm happy with the march. I'm happy with the outcome. I'm happy with the participants. They showed bravery, they showed grit, they showed focus as they alone can exercise and demonstrate.
All right, great. Now, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about that strategy. Mr. Duke, you are a man that's known for your strategy. Even though that people may not necessarily understand it, you are someone that sometimes thinks about some of these things, thinks critically about some of these things before you do them. Let me talk a little bit about the strategy behind, you know, just starting that match in Roxborough. I know you said it's in some way significant to you because it's where you started your political campaign in 2015 as an independent candidate. So is it that you're almost like presenting yourself again to the people?
Well, a little more than that. Kings Bay was the place where they had the last slave plantation. My forefathers, the Dukes, they were overseers on that plantation. And it was the last place where a person got flogged in Tobago on the Kingsway plantation. So it's important for us to start there. However, the place of the most profound riot in Tobago was in Roxborough. And so it was also important that I end there. I remind the people of Tobago and I resuscitate within them that spirit of revolution. Because we are on a political revolution to change the political landscape of this country. I dare say to you that both the PNM and the UNC, they are outdated. They have no traction on the ground. They are only being financed by the big hefes, which will soon recognize that they are financing a dead horse, a horse that cannot compete, because they can only get so much. Only so much persons are attracted to those parties. And thereby, the grassroots are recognizing they are unrepresented. Watson Solomon Duke, leader and founder of the PDP, is the only person who's representing the grassroots in Trinidad and Tobago. And I dare say, while I represent all, my laser focus is on those at the bottom of our society. We must lift those persons higher. So was it an introduction? Yes, well, a reintroduction to those things that we held dear in 2015. Those things remain unchecked. And we must continue focusing on those targets until we reach where we aspire to reach, where the ground is lifted and everyone is lifted.
Now, of course, it was also a Labor Day march, and as you said earlier, it was to advocate for certain issues, especially with salaries and so on, a concern for public servants. Now, I mean, you as president of, during your time as president of the PSA, you did march several times. You brought that Labor Day march several times to Tobago. Now, we see as the leadership has changed, they have gone back to keeping those marches in Trinidad. What does that say to public servants here in Tobago?
Well, it doesn't say much to them, right? I mean, different leaders lead differently. I'm a Tobagoan in my heart and my soul. I'm a man for the forgotten, a man for the marginalized. And wherever they are forgotten or marginalized people, be it in Tobago, in Trinidad, I will show up. I believe in the resuscitation of life. I believe in impregnating person with a kind of inspiration that turns them on and they never switch off. So I will always try to do that which is not done and do it to lift the people up. But so far as public servants are concerned in this country, I will leave that for my colleague who is now the president of the PSA. I don't believe in dabbling in business that doesn't directly concern me. However, I must confess that I miss the PSA. I miss those days. I'm heart struck when
Why
I
do you
think about
miss? What about
you.
those days that you miss?
Well, it was a level of excitement. To represent people gives me excitement, right? I love to represent people, especially the forgotten, the forlorn, the fatigued people. I want to represent those people. And when I came to them, there was a light of hope on their face. And when I said, hey, we're doing this, that was it. No question asked. That was it. I've led some of the largest marches in this country as a single man. I don't think that, I mean, I don't hate to hit it, but I think that if we put myself and Butler side by side, there's going to be a difficulty in finding out who did more. Because in my time, I've stopped the government bill while it was in the parliament. I mean, I put so much persons around the Red House that the Prime Minister Patrick Manning called me and said, Watson, I never knew he had my number. He called me, said, Watson Duke, what do you want? I said, you got to talk to us. He spoke to us. I mean, we shut down the customs, immigration, all of these places have brought Port of Spain to its knees as a trade unionist. I paid for it. I was maligned, charged, all different kind of stuff for it, even placed on sedition charges. But it's par for the cause. And I'm not angry about anything that I've inherited because of my militant and advocacy in the trade union. I relish everything, the good and the bad, and accept it as part of my growing exercise, part of my development. But I do miss the days when I could go inside and bang on the table. What with money now?
All
I
right,
love that.
Mr. Duke. Well, we're not done with our conversation, but we have to take a quick break. So please don't go anywhere, viewers. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this.
Thank you. So, got a little drink.
Tapicom. Welcome to the future. The only card you will need in a new world. Digital business cards. Safe, hassle-free. The future is here. Tapicom. New generation digital transfer. Digital time clock cards. Digital attendance cards. Air tags. Customized designs. Digital clothing tags. Digital pet tags. Tapicom. The future is here. Contact us today.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash and transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-1723 or visit our website at www.mi4security.com to sign up today.
It's a different type of thing down there. Man, we party till we drop down there. With a lot of pretty girls down there. Down in Tobago.
Yeah. Hey. Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, we are continuing our conversation with Assemblyman for Roxborough Argyle, Watson Duke, as well as the political leader and founder of the Progressive Democratic Patriots. All right, so Mr. Duke, now I want to get into just some of the things that came out of a group of concerned citizens here in Tobago, and that was the idea that because there's a police investigation as a result of this audio tape out there in the space, that the administration should step down while that investigation is going on. What are your opinions on this?
Well, I think I share similar thoughts on the matter. The person who holds himself out as the chief secretary must understand that he's the face of the executive of Tobago, a quasi-government. It's not a government, but a quasi-government. And therefore, he has to give the international community the opportunity to see Tobago in a pure and pristine manner. What he has been tried for in the public eyes is a kind of a misbehavior. It's a kind of act that he himself admitted to. He himself admitted to planning it. but not executing it. And but in the voice note, you hear him saying, "Yeah, we get some of them in already. Some of them in already." So he will have to explain that to the popo, to the police. He will have to explain that to the public, and they call names on the thing also. We don't know who that person is, but certainly there's a particular name who is quite known in the public space that carries that. So he should do the honorable thing and step aside as the deputy chief secretary. When he accused me of rogue behavior and trying to get him to operate outside of the law, when I asked him to feed 27 people, 26 people in New York, I said, these people need to be fed. Could you please call a shot? Talk to the executive. Let's get someone to feed these people now. Because people is at the center of what I do. I was quite shocked to learn that he took it seriously to the point where he wanted me out and was challenging me to come and fight him and see who has more people than him. And I was quite taken aback. And I said, this can't augur well for Tobago. And I simply removed myself from the executive, from under his executive control, because I cannot be led by someone who holds those bad ideals. And I removed myself. I did the honorable thing and quarreled, and I removed myself. He should remove himself also, because Tobago now is now questioning his judgment. There are thousands of youth in Tobago who cannot be employed, but he's on a tape stating and planning to employ persons to spread propaganda. Since when spreading propaganda, false information that is, since when spreading false information is a requisite to be employed in a government, that is wrong, and it should be seen as wrong.
Now, Mr. Duke, you were accused of being the person to possibly leak this audio clip, and it was said that this discussion took place during an executive council meeting or a strategic meeting in regards to that happened about a year ago. Can I get your response to that?
Well, frankly, Watson Solomon Duke did not leak any tape whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I did not even know that conversation existed. I never knew of it. I was totally unaware of it. And he cannot find me participating in such a conversation. Such a conversation, I will shut it down openly and defiantly and loudly, and I will not hesitate. I will bring it to the public attention immediately. I've done more with less than that. Imagine I walk away from my job for 26 person who was not fed. You can imagine if he had threatened to employ persons to spread false information to the denial of persons who are qualified and looking for employment, I would have mashed up the place. I would have turned tables over, make a scene, and let them know I was not employed to do that folly. So me leaking tape, Duke ain't no sneaky man. I ain't no tanty man. I'm not his friends. Duke is a real hardback man. I will face the bull head on. And I want you to read my lips. I'm not bluffing with that. I will face the music head on. I'm a man. I'm not tanty man. Hiding and leak tape. Man, no coward. And more than that, let's say, right, someone leaks the tape, not me, but someone else within his company leaked the tape. What concern is that to him? While on the campaign trail, he was talking about some whistleblower legislation or policy. So is he now angry that someone blew the whistle, whosoever that person is? That person should be given a medal of honor. That person exposed his nastiness, his betrayal of the public purse. He is hiring people to spread false information. He said that. And in the tape, he said they hired some of them already. There's a few more they want.
Now, Mr. Duke, you were also accused of colluding with the PNM. Are you in talks with that party, with the PNM party, towards opposing the Fali Augustine-led administration?
I'm not in talks with the PNM to oppose Fali Augustine administration. I talk to the PNM all the time. I talk to the UNC all the time. I'm a politician. That is what politicians do for a living. They have to have conversations. But do we talk on any nefarious activities? No. The PNM, they are my enemy as well as the UNC, but we have conversation from time to time. I do not hate Dr. Rowley, He's a miserable man, very miserable, but I do not hate him. As a matter of fact, I want to create a society in which Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley is not discriminated against because of his bad past and the amount of people he annoyed. I want to ensure that he's properly protected because he did so while he was a politician. And as a politician, it's what we call civil war, right? It's an academic war, I should say, where we war against each other. We say things that are not nice at times. We act in a manner that's quite belligerent at times. But at the end of the day, we do it to present ourselves as strong and to represent the ideals that we have. And so I talk to the UNC, I talk to the PNM. I don't have a problem in that. But do I have my principles? Yes, I have my principles. Are those principles worth dying for? Yes. I said to people already, do not expect me to fight for the Augusti. No, it's a job of the PNM to do so. But while I'm in Tobago and while I'm there, I will continue to call sin by its right name, Fali Augusta.
Now, Mr. Duke, what are your opinions or what is your take on the situation where we do not have a chief administrator right now in the assembly and the predicament it puts the business of assembly in as a result? I'm pretty sure you've heard by now the explanation provided by the Prime Minister. We heard a little bit from the Chief Secretary on Friday. What are your reactions to this?
I think both of them are playing a handsy-pansy kind of game. And I'm not sure what's going on there. But I can say to you, no business can take place in Tobago Tobago House of Assembly without a chief administrator. A chief administrator is part of the Trinidad and Tobago Republican Constitution. It means that if you do not have a chief administrator, it's as serious as not having a chief secretary. Could the Tobago House of Assembly run without a chief secretary? No. Could the Tobago House of Assembly run without a chief administrator? No. So all acts committed without a chief administrator is null, void, and no effect. And that's the gospel truth. I want to challenge you to ask a lawyer that. Ask a lawyer that's a creature of the Constitution. As a chief administrator. All right?
Now, Mr. Duke, of course, you are very knowledgeable about the public service and how it operates. And in the situation where the Public Service Commission, there's an accusation that the Public Service Commission was not properly constituted because, of course, we saw just last Monday that a deputy commissioner was, chairman of the Deputy Service Commission was appointed. What are your opinions on even that situation that sort of kind of stymied the process to fill the gap or to fill the vacancy after the original candidate had to be taken off the job?
Again, these things are simple administrative issues, but the Prime Minister and the so-called Chief Secretary, they're playing a handsy-pansy kind of game, many minor more kind of game. What ought to happen in a serious government, if there is no administrator, that should be an immediate priority. So immediate that the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago can call a meeting, a cabinet meeting, and decide, you know what, we are going to move certain or change certain legislation to allow us to temporarily appoint a chief administrator until we fix the issue in Service Commission. And they look at the next senior person in line, and they will simply appoint that person in line. Yes, we know that Tobago House of Assembly has certain autonomy, but they do not have autonomy that supersedes the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.
All right, well, Mr. Duke, unfortunately, we will just have to leave it all right there because we are out of time. But I want to thank you so much for your opinions on the matters of the day and for being able to have this conversation with us.
Thank you.
All right, viewers, like I said, we are out of time this morning, but thank you for being with us. It certainly was a pleasure, and we will be with you again tomorrow.
We special and there is no denying.
drop down